So Jesse, to get started, I'm interested to know, like, how did this project come to you, and how did you get involved, and what was it appealing to you?
So getting onto a project like this was, to me, exciting, and I saw the potential as a producer and to create a role that I felt I'd be proud to play. Well, of course, once I read the manuscript, I saw that there was so much more to this story, to this voice. And so I started to champion it as a cultural narrative that needed to get out there. So we went through all the phases of him finding a wonderful publisher. And I already knew about Arte Público because I'm from Texas, being from the San Antonio area. And I'd through the writer of Blood In, Blood Out, Jimmy Santiago Baca, who had done some work with Arte Público. So I thought it was the perfect fit, and so I was excited when it ultimately got published by Arte Público. So I think I still, as a champion of it, and whatever manifestations happens, I think that Signcatcher deserves to be out there with some of the bestsellers, Oprah's best-selling books. And so being someone who really, really stresses, reading and the ability to champion our authors, like Otilio and like Jimmy Baca and Sandra Cisneros, I think, to me, as a creative and as a content creator and as a producer, these are the type of stories that I want to create. And so it was a no-brainer for Signcatcher, to be part of the creative team.
Wonderful. Say a little bit more about why you think a book like this is so timely, particularly for Latino and Latina youth.
Well, we talk about, the issue of diversity has been something that we've dealt with not only in the entertainment industry, but like you said, in all aspects of our American society, particularly for us Latinos being from the Southwest and understanding that the revisionist history and the idea of American history in the Southwest has severely underrepresented and misrepresented the true contributions of what we've done in the Southwest as Americanos, as Indígenas, as Latinos. And so I think for me, having grown up with the Western and understanding that we're not anywhere in that story, so that there is a need for first voice, there's a need for authentic cultural narratives. Mm-hmm. That in the area of la palabra, in the area of the word, we grew up with our poetas, we grew up with our Chicano playwrights in our barrios, in Teatro del Barrio. And so places like East LA, places like Califas, places like Texas, places like the Southwest, we exemplify the written word. We have not lost that. We have an oral tradition, and la palabra, the written word, is part of that. I think that's part of the reason why Arte Público is so important. Publishers like this, Aslan Press out of Palo Alto College in San Antonio, these outsider voices, the Cheech, the fact that, the Cheech as a voice for that visual art, the Chicano art that has been outsider art for hundreds of years. It's our time now. We are the voice. We're the puente between the Latino voice that's, in Español, and the American voice. We are the bilingual speakers. We are the bicultural voices of that. And so when we talk about first voice, when we talk about authentic cultural narratives, we have to champion these stories like Signcatcher, these authors like Otilio. And so as a producer, again, going back to the understanding of what you've had to struggle with in academia, when you're talking about we can't teach Chicano studies in certain states, in the Southwest, what are we talking about here? And so I think for us, we need to constantly champion each other, the written word, the publishers, academia, what we're teaching in our histories, como ustedes, como maestros. what we produce as content creators, you know? So to me, the death of American cinema is going to be these comic book narratives that do not represent us, right? These constant revisionist westerns that do not represent us. And so I think for me, and people like myself, you know, Edward James Olmos, who's been doing it for years, you know, Taylor Hackford, Jimmy Santiago Baca, you know, Luis Valdez, we have to, this is where we have to go and find the next superhero for our raza, you know. And these are the stories I think that would be much more exciting for me. And you know, as a Netflix series or Amazon series, you know, that's what we have to keep pushing. And like you said, get that critical mass that says, no, our raza doesn't want to see those tired narco narratives with that perspective, you know, these boring, you know, narratives that do not represent us. This is what we want. We are demanding this. And I think then we can do, like you said, what these other cultures have done and carve our niche. But our niche is going to be enormous. It's a Grand Canyon because our raza is there waiting for these stories like Signcatcher, you know.
So, Jesse, what do you think that we need to do to help maximize this book's reach and even beyond the book? How do we get more of these first voice stories out into the public space? Yeah. What is it that we need to do to lift up, you know, reading and viewing content that really speaks to our struggling youth who are facing so many institutional barriers?
Otilio keeps talking about that this is a story of hope and faith, and that his journey and life has been one of hope and faith. And I know that a lot of us agree with that and have followed that path somehow or other in our lives. So I think what we need to do now as professionals is constantly keep coming together and finding ways to reach that next level. You know, I think it's wonderful whenever we sit and talk about what next steps are, that it's not, oh, it's going to end here or this is as far as we can go. No, we keep talking about this as a visual narrative. We keep talking about this as the next great Netflix series, you know, that needs to be told. We keep talking about this as an audio book, as an ebook. So turning into this digital curve and going, okay, if this is the new way of palabra, then this is how we're going to do it. You know, it was wonderful at this event here at Homeboys to see Otilio reading parts of it and to see an enthralled audience, an enthralled audience of Latino raza from all these different walks of life, and all of them just sharing that palabra in that old time oral way. You know, we came together at the fireplace. We had that floricanto. You know, we had that floricanto, and all of us noblemen shared our vision for it. And that just tells me that it's gonna happen. It's gonna be there. You know, I see Edward James Olmos in it. I could almost see his face on the screen. You know, I could see El Pidi, I could see myself, I could see Benjamin Bratt, I could see Luis Valdez. You know, I could see all of us telling this story and remembering when it was only a book, right? And so to me, that the coming together of our collective wisdom to share these stories and then to share them with our young people. We're celebrating the 30th anniversary of Blood In, Blood Out, and it's so amazing to see how many young people come up to me and say, oh my God, I love that film, I love your work. And I think Signcatcher has that type of appeal, that we're gonna make it into something in a story that's gonna keep going and continuing for generations. And it's gonna be one of those stories you pass on, one of those books like Rain of Gold, you know, that you pass on. One of those stories, you know, Bless Me Ultima, that you pass on. And I think, and then ultimately it'll be one of those films, one of those series that we pass on. I also think that there's the opportunity with first voice intellectual properties like this to blaze that path of independence, to say, okay, if the majors don't want this, then we're going to get it out to our raza. We really have that type of cultural barrio support. And I really do think that projects like this could create a niche for first voice directly to their, core audience. That's our raza, that's our people. And they need these voices in this day and age, they need them. So this opportunity to be able to share in the creation and the manifestation of the next level of this palabra, of this voice, it's exciting to me because now I see something that I can commit the next 20 years of my life to, And I know that that's the legacy that I'll want to leave behind. Not just Blood In, Blood Out, but Sign Catcher, the series, Sign Catcher, the film, Sign Catcher, the comic book. ¿Por qué no?